Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the dark heart of a legend. We're going to start on a ship that's been lost to this creeping madness, and then we're going to travel all the way back in time to a single world-shattering lie. Why? To understand a battle that isn't fought with swords, but with whispers. So let's start right in the middle of the nightmare. I want you to imagine you're on a ship, totally adrift in the dark. You're being haunted by something you can't see, but you can feel it hunting you. That's the terror a young chronicler named Enidor is facing. And to figure out what's tormenting him, we've got to understand the voyage that doomed them all in the first place. Okay, so this ship is the Niflgar, and look, the crew, they were supposed to be coming back as heroes, right? Their fortunes were made, but that triumph, it just curdled. It turned into a curse. And their voyage home, it's turned into a complete descent into chaos. See, they went where they weren't supposed to go, into this forbidden territory, and they found their prize, a really rare ore called Nurit. Now, they thought they were carrying riches back with them, but down in the ship's hold, something else was stirring. A kind of malevolence that had been waiting, maybe even sleeping, right inside that very stone. And the effect? It's absolutely catastrophic. The Nurit, it's not just cargo, it's a poison, and it's seeping into the minds of the crew. Paranoia just takes over. It becomes like a plague. What was once a brotherhood of sailors completely splinters into these suspicious, warring factions. And right there, at the very heart of all this chaos, is Enidor, being stalked by a shadowy figure that, get this, no one else can even see. So, what is this thing? Is it just some monster from the deep? Or is it something much, much older? Well, to find that answer, we've got to leave the cursed deck of the Niflgar behind and take a journey all the way back to the dawn of time itself. All right, we are rewinding the clock way back, all the way to the First Eon, to see exactly how this ancient evil was born. This, right here, is where the very first shadow was cast. So, way back in the beginning, the world was home to the Faelirs. Think of them as this race of noble, immortal beings. They lived in a total paradise called the Shoreland, and they were ruled by a wise, loving creator, the King of Light, Ellenarin. And their biggest hope, their ultimate goal, was to one day be welcomed into his kingdom, the Eternal Nest. But you know how these stories go. Like in all great myths, this piece came with a big warning. When this ambitious Faelir prince, Myrnavel, decided he wanted to go explore the world, Ellenarin gave him one absolutely critical instruction. Stay away from the desolate northern frontiers, and no matter what you do, ignore the tempting voices you're going to hear there. And of course, Myrnavel doesn't listen. Why would he? So he goes to the northern frontiers, and there he meets this sly, super manipulative being named Morhog. Now, Morhog is smart. He doesn't use force. No. He uses whispers. He just plants this little seed of doubt, twisting Elnarin's loving protection into a lie about tyrannical control. He basically asks Myrnavel, "Hey, is your king really as good as you think he is?" And boom, this is pretty much the anatomy of a fall, right? Myrnavel's pride is hurt, his trust is completely shattered, so he listens to the whispers, he buys the lie, and he agrees to help Morhog. He gets tricked into destroying this sacred object, the Morning Dawn flower. And he has no idea that it's actually a seal, holding back Morhog's true, formless evil. The second that flower is destroyed, the shadow is unleashed on the entire world. Okay, so you might be asking, how does a formless evil become something you can literally hold in your hand? Well, it takes shape, and it becomes the very substance that our sailors have, without knowing it, brought right onto their ship. That substance is Nurit. On the surface, it's this beautiful, sapphire-like ore. But what it really is, it's a vessel for malevolent spirits. It doesn't corrupt you with a direct attack, nothing like that. It's subtle. It whispers promises, wealth, power, glory, right into the minds of anyone near it. It awakens these impossible dreams and just feeds on their pride until they are totally consumed. And its effects are just devastating. Think of it like a three-pronged attack. Physically, it causes these strange diseases like black sores. Mentally, it plagues your mind with illusions and deceptive dreams. And then spiritually, it just sucks the warmth right out of your heart, leaving this strange, consuming coldness. And what does that do? It ignites the worst in us: wrath, hatred, and pride.
So, to fight back against this corruption, Elnarin creates a kind of antidote. He takes the last surviving fragments of the Morning Dawn flower and he forges his own stone, one that's a source of healing, light, and truth. And this, right here, sets up the central conflict for the whole legend. You have a world divided. It's a war fought between the corrupting pull of the Nurit and the healing power of Elnarin's light.
Okay, so with all that backstory, let's go back to the Niflgar, because this ancient war, this war of whispers, it's playing out right now on the claustrophobic decks of that very ship. I mean, it's like history repeating itself, almost perfectly. The Nurit Ord down in the cargo hold is acting exactly like Morhog did back in the northern frontiers. It whispers, it preys on the sailors' biggest desires and their deepest fears. It turns them against each other, twisting simple misunderstandings into these huge betrayals, and just fills the entire ship with this thick fog of paranoia. And just like Morhog gave a voice to Myrnavel's doubts, well, the deception on the Niflgar finds its own mouthpiece. A sailor named Porion. He's totally influenced by the Nurit, and he starts preaching its doctrine. He's echoing those same ancient lies, that Elnarin is just a myth, a fairy tale, and that real strength, that lies in a darker, more primal kind of power. But here's the crucial part. The mythology is very clear that these whispers, they aren't irresistible. You can fight them. Elnarin himself says that his followers have the ability to reject the enemy's influence. It's not a matter of how strong you are or how much power you have, it's about will. The path to resisting it is as simple and as difficult as just choosing not to listen. And that right there, that concept of choice, brings us to the absolute heart of the matter. This is the core theme that gives this entire mythology its power. When you boil it all down, this whole conflict is about a fundamental human struggle. The lie, the one whispered by the Nurit, is always seductive, isn't it? It offers you power, it justifies your anger, it promises an easy way out. But the truth, the light of Elnarin, that demands something much harder. It demands humility, trust, and the sheer will to resist that very comforting deception. You know, this whole idea is captured perfectly by one of the sailors, the archer Vedran. After he goes through his own agonizing struggle with doubt and despair, he finally gets it. He understands the real nature of the war they're fighting. It's not a battle of swords and steel. It's a battle of illumination. You can't punch the darkness, right? You can only dispel it with light. And at the end of the day, that is the question this entire mythology leaves us with. It mirrors the choices that every single character faces, from Prince Myrnaval all the way back in the First Eon, to every single sailor on the Niflgar. The forces of shadow and light, they aren't just external enemies out there somewhere. They're internal paths. And so the legend asks all of us to consider, in our own lives, which path are we choosing to walk?